Well, my fellow nerds, it seems like we are all mutant fans here. Due to the fact that you all seem to enjoy our newest mutant videos so much, we decided to follow it up with a part 2. So I have even more new mutants for you, squee! All of these are from the last decade as well, 2010 to 2020, so all still fairly new. So interesting to watch the direction of mutant powers and characters change with the times, and see how what is going on around us affects the writing in some of our favorite comic books. And today we'll get to look into some of that as we count down the top 10 newest mutants part 2. If you love mutants as much as I think you do, be sure to let us know by giving this video a thumbs up and commenting as to whether or not you'd like more lists on Marvel's mutants. And be sure to stick around until the end of this video as well, where I will disclose the theme behind my ordering for this list. Alright, let's get counting. Number 10. Eye-Boy. While Trevor Hawkins may seem like an absurd mutant all covered in eyes and whatnot, I wouldn't write him off just yet. His mutation revealed itself following the events of the Avengers vs. X-Men. He has died multiple times since his introduction in the Wolverine and the X-Men series, but he always keeps randomly coming back. As I said, you might think his death has occurred so many times because his abilities could be deemed as lame. What use is being covered in eyeballs? Sounds more inconvenient than anything. But his multiple eyes have actually granted Trevor some pretty cool powers. For one, he's been shown to be able to use his eyes and the multiple perceptions from them in target practice, making him a really proficient marksman. His improved vision also allows him to be better at reading people's nonverbal cues, giving him greater insight into those people that he interacts with, people or mutants. This also translates into battle by giving him enhanced perception when it comes to an incoming attack, being able to tell when someone is about to pull a punch, etc, etc. And of course, his eyes also allow him to see on both a microscopic and a telescopic level, meaning he can see a little speck of dust or see clearly something that is quite far away. If you're wondering why I looked over there, I was looking far away. That's me trying to have telescopic vision. It's not working. Number 9. Prodigy. Prodigy is David Elaine, a mutant who is often associated with the X-Men and who attended the Xavier Institute. He came to the famous mutant school after trying to hide his powers. David has always been a smart kid, but he started noticing one day that he knew things that he simply just couldn't have known, and that he didn't remember learning. It turned out that David had been telepathically absorbing knowledge and skill sets from the minds of those around him. Feeling bad about his ability, like it gave him an unfair edge and meant he was kind of cheating, he sought to hide it and doubled down on studying to improve his knowledge naturally. Unfortunately, the mutant hate group Purity ended up uncovering his secret and outing him as a mutant, causing him to turn to the Xavier Institute. He would lose his abilities on M-Day, but still remain a valuable hero with all of the knowledge he retained later becoming fully accessible to him again. Being a mutant with studious telepathic abilities, I also love that he was originally depicted as needing glasses. Though of course, in a land of magic and superpowers, he was later cured of his need for corrective lenses by mutant elixir.
Moving on to number 8, Armor. Armor, aka Hisako Akichi, is a Japanese mutant who first appeared in October of 2004 in Astonishing X-Men issue 4. Her mutant powers are pretty rad. She has the ability to generate an impenetrable psionic exoskeleton body armor that gives her superhuman strength, reflexes, agility, endurance, stamina, dexterity, durability, and invulnerability. Not too shabby, huh? Her goal was always to become an X-Man, and she went through some pretty traumatic stuff while she was a student at Xavier's. After the alien villain Ord attacked the school, her best friend Wing had been injected with a cure for his mutant ability, and eventually he committed suicide because of it, with Armor, along with Kitty Pryde and other students at the time, all being trapped inside the danger room with his reanimated corpse. That happened when the room became sentient and hostile towards them, so not a good experience for her, needless to say.
Number 7. ELLIE Camacho. Eleanor is the daughter of Deadpool and Carmelita Karma Camacho. That's right, Deadpool is a daughter, if you can believe it. Carmelita and Deadpool were being held hostage together, and fearing that she would die, Carmelita decided she wanted her last acts to be those of love. Her and Deadpool were rescued right in the middle of this act of love, but he still managed to get her pregnant. She initially raised baby Ellie on her own, but did track down Deadpool to at least get him to recognize his daughter and take some responsibility. That was during the time that he was actually working for Butler and constantly having his mind wiped. Butler saw the child as an opportunity, and before Deadpool could scare off Carmelita and baby Ellie, took a blood sample from the baby. This happened in Deadpool Volume 3, Issue 34 out of 2013. And in this issue, we learned that the results of that blood test proved that Ellie had an active X gene, meaning she was a mutant who would one day grow up to manifest powers. We don't know what they are yet, but I'm sure they're gonna be amazing. Also, she's a mutant, so cool.
Number 6. Jonas Graymalkin. Let's get a little younger for number 6. Jonas was born in pre-revolutionary America in the 18th century. He was buried alive after his father found him with another boy in their barn, and this triggered his mutant abilities, which allowed him to live for 200 years underground. Why is that? Well, his power is darkness empowerment. The darker it is, the stronger he gets. This includes expanding his longevity and self-sustenance to the point where he can survive without food or water. He gets weaker in the light though, and does things like age.
Number 5. This guy's like a more visually pleasing version of Beak. The problem is, his powers are just kind of boring. He's got wings, and the wings give him a healing factor. And then his wings get cut off, and he loses everything interesting about him. I mean, I guess he still has the vocal cord powers of a lyrebird, but that's not really relevant when it comes to being on an X-Men team. And really, he's just kind of a sad character. He fell in love with a girl named Julia Cabot, whose father tried to kill him, but not being aware of his healing factor, failed to do so. However, Julia, believing he was dead, chose to drown herself with him. However, his healing factor brought him back to life and forced him to carry her lifeless corpse out of the water. Then he tried to kill himself a few times, but his healing factor kept bringing him back. Sadly, this character would eventually be killed by William Stryker as well.
Number 4. Fever Pitch. Real name unknown, Fever Pitch was a very handsome young man until his mutant powers manifested and he accidentally destroyed his own face. Thanks to his mutant powers, his entire body is made of an organic flame that allows him to radiate intense heat, fly, and discharge and throw explosive plasma. As the years went by and his powers became stronger, he eventually burned through his entire body, leaving him nothing more but a fiery skeleton, which ultimately led him to becoming a member of the incarnation of Gene Nation, organized and led by the Dark Beast. Fever Pitch was seemingly killed on his first mission by Nate Gray after his energy was siphoned off, but he did later resurface in Berlin trying to capture Abyss so that he could sell him off to some researchers. Now skip ahead a little bit and we see Fever Pitch classified by the government as a national security threat, as he was one of the few mutants to keep his powers after the decimation of the mutant population. He was one of the many mutants to have a tracking chip implanted in his head before a trip into Salem Center. When the chip's true nature was discovered, he had it removed by Mr. M, who he followed when he led an exodus from the Institute. Fever Pitch was later captured by the anti-mutant group the Sapien League and was injected with a dose of the Legacy virus, causing his powers to straight up overload, killing hundreds including himself. Check out his whole story, starting with his first appearance all the way back in 1999's Generation X, number 50.
Number 3. Maxime and Manon. Maxime and Manon are kind of like a mutant duo, so I thought I'd include them together. They're twins from the future, whose mutant powers activated before puberty, so they're kids. In the future, they attended the Xavier Institute for Young Mutants. However, they were then kidnapped and brought back to the present, where they were brainwashed by a Hob and used as evil little weapons. Scary weapons too, may I add. After being defeated, the two children were left in the care of Jean Grey. They had been good children before they were sort of corrupted, and it was believed that they could probably be redeemed. Their powers allow them together to severely mess with people's heads, telepathically. Maxime's powers allow him to manipulate people's emotions, while Manon can alter someone's memories. They both also possess some mind control abilities as well. A dangerous combination, as we saw in New Mutants Volume 3, issue number 4. If you haven't read that yet, go read it, because it's messed up, it's great. Number 2. Shark Girl. Shark Girl was originally Ayara dos Santos, a young girl from Brazil who one day noticed an intense craving to eat fish. This was the first sign of her powers manifesting, which eventually resulted in her becoming a mutant were-shark. She ended up enrolling in the Jean Grey School for Higher Learning, but takes weekends off to return to her home in Brazil. Her powers allow her to resemble a shark while maintaining her own mind and memories, and not resemble a shark to the point that, she can't walk. She is more of a land shark usually, part humanoid, still able to stand and walk around on her legs and also use her hands. This form also enhances her physiology, giving her increased strength and speed and allowing her to breathe both underwater and on land. She was already a great swimmer, but her mutant powers enhance her ability even more. While in her shark form, however, she is also susceptible to going into a blood frenzy, like most sharks are occasionally known to do. So whatever you do, don't bleed around her. She might try to eat you. It's not her fault.
And finally, in at number 1, VELOCIDAD. Gabriel Coelho is VELOCIDAD, a mutant who debuted in 2010 in Uncanny X-Men issue 527. He's another Generation Hope mutant who is a part of the Five Lights with Hope Summers, and kind of also had a thing with her until she caught him making out with Pixie. Unfortunately, he met his end almost 9 years later, dying in Uncanny X-Men Volume 5 issue 21. Now Gabriel is capable of doing something called localized time manipulation. He can slow down the movement of time around him, but remains unaffected by that slowdown. So it does make him appear as if he's moving incredibly fast. But really, he's not a speedster, just a time manipulator, which is what everyone actually initially thought his powers were. Now his powers speed up his aging greatly though, which is what happened after he was detained in and forced to use his powers for ONE, the Office of National Emergency. He was merged with Warlock in order to keep him alive, and eventually when Wolverine came across him, he asked Logan to kill him, which the mutant did in an act of mercy. Told you it didn't end well. Alright, there we have it, friends. What other relatively new mutants can you think of? Give us a shout in those comments below and let us know who you think should be on our Part 5 list. If we do one, who knows, we might. We've done 4 so far. You never know. In the meantime, thanks for watching, friends. Be sure to hit that like button if you dug this video, share it with a friend, and subscribe to Top 10 Nerd and hang out with us some more. Catch you guys in the next video.
Are becoming the new hotness again, with Marvel's newest X-Men related series breathing life into the old folklore many of us have loved throughout the years. Just when you thought nothing else could be done with mutants to make you interested, House of X and Powers of X showed up to remind you that mutants are still cool and still have some stories to share with us. To celebrate all this new cool mutant love that has been spreading, we thought it only fair to reflect on some of the up-and-comers or some new additions that we thought also added some spice to the mutant scene. Spice. Today we'll be taking a look at some of the newest faces to join mutant kind in the past decade, as we count down the top 10 newest mutants. The ranking for these ones might seem a little odd, but trust me, there is a system here. To you, I pose a challenge based on this. How do you think I rank these mutants from 10 to 1? If you think you figured it out after this video, be sure to let me know in the comments below. And be sure to stick around till the end of this list for bonus content as well. Alright, let's get counting. Number 10, Tempest. Eva Bell first made her appearance in All New X-Men issue number 1 in 2013. She could be viewed as one of the most useful of the new mutants to surface in the past decade, because her abilities are so based in something that the X-Men and mutants and, well, sort of all of Marvel seem to get involved with more often these days: time travel. Tempest has chronokinesis powers, which allow her to alter the way time moves around her in the area she is in, and allow her to create time bubbles which she can send through time for a short while, and even time travel fully herself. She has been referred to as near Omega level, and honestly, with a bit more control over her powers, I could see her making the Omega list any day. Tempest is also one of the House of X's The Five, and helps to bring deceased mutants back to life by speeding up the growth process within their eggs. It sounds creepy when I say it like that, but more will be explained.
Number 9, Mystique. Now, the exact time when Mystique was born is a bit more nebulous, but she was around during some of the same years as Wolverine, as an adult, and they even had a brief fling. She is said to be a little over 200 years old, as the fact that she can alter and shift her cells means that she can rejuvenate her own and hence maintain her youth and her appearance, an ability that she will likely be able to maintain for years to come. Now, there is an advantage to shapeshifting about all those people who can just change form feel like they're missing out on.
Number 8. WALLFLOWER is basically the teen drama of X-Men, and at the end of her short soap opera-ic life, she's killed. Being a second-generation mutant, WALLFLOWER, aka Lori Collins, received her power from her father, that power being the ability to control the emotions of others by using emitted pheromones. Her father, Sean Garrison, used that power to manipulate people, in particular her mother Gail. Upon becoming pregnant with Lori, she became immune to his power and ended her relationship with Sean. Seeing what a monster her father was and how he'd hurt her mother, Lori isolated herself from other people. When her powers manifested, she caused an incident in which all the boys on a beach became attracted to her. This incident scared her and caused her to become even more isolated than she'd already been. When she finally arrived at the Xavier Institute, the soap opera continues, with her having a series of failed romances and using boys to make other boys jealous, causing said boys to get into fights, really just a series of episodes of the OC. And as mentioned, eventually she's killed by a sniper on the orders of William Stryker, thus ending the teen drama of WALLFLOWER.
Number 7, Spore. Andrew Grace developed his unique mutation at a pretty young age. Now, what was that mutation, you ask? Well, for starters, he had a very animal-like appearance, kinda like Bigfoot. But that's not all, because his real ability was that he was able to control people's moods and actions through pheromones. Growing up with an abusive father who forced his mother to kill herself, Andrew grew up with an intense hatred for humans, and began using his powers to make others turn on each other and kill each other. He eventually adopted the name Spore and became a member of the Acolytes, and as a member of the team, countless civilians and innocent people lost their lives. For a time, he was a prisoner of Excalibur as Dr. Rory Campbell wanted to cure Spore, but during the treatment, Rory's latent hatred of mutants got the better of him, and Spore manipulated Rory into an aggressive attack on him, which gave him the opportunity to escape. Sadly, though, this escape wasn't permanent, as he eventually made his way back onto the island and was killed during a Sentinel attack. It was revealed later that Spore's motives for killing were a lot darker and sadder than we originally thought, though. Spore just hated himself as much as other humans, and in his mind felt that killing humans was very wrong and that he therefore deserved to be killed himself. Check them out for yourself, starting with 1993's Uncanny X-Men number 300.
Number 6. Gabrielle Kinney. Gabrielle Kinney has been through a series of codenames since her introduction in All New Wolverine in 2016. When Gabby was introduced, she got to play the role of Little Sis to another favorite mutant, X-23, Laura Kinney, who had actually adopted the codename Wolverine in that series. She was the all-new Wolverine, get it? See, Gabby is also a clone of Wolverine's, which makes her part of a weird kind of clone family. Ergo, her powers are also similar to those of Laura and Logan's. She has bone claws and a healing factor and enhanced senses. But she also has a different ability than her predecessors. She cannot feel pain, making her an extremely tough mutant to go up against. Also probably be hard for her to know when she's like getting close to being defeated. She's like, I don't know, I can't feel it. Number 5. Brew. Oh my goodness, I love Brew so much. I love Brew too much. Calm down, Amanda. So Brew has to be one of the cutest mutants on this list, just FYI. Brew is a mutant and a member of the Brood alien race. Brood are typically born with an urge to kill and consume. They do not understand compassion and empathy in the same way that humans do. But Brew was born with compassion, which actually made him a mutant of the race, and also helped him to become independent, separating himself from the hive mind and developing his own sense of self with the ability to make his own decisions. While you might not think of compassion as a mutant ability, for the Brood it very much is. In fact, when young Brood are born with such mutations, they are usually deemed as a reject and killed. But due to the dwindling population of the Brood Queen allowed Brood to live. He studied at Jean Grey's mutant school for higher learning. And he wears a cute little suit. It's so cute. Never thought Brood could be as cute, but there you go. There you have it. Anything is possible if you believe.
In at number 4, GRAYMALKIN. Jumping forward a few years for this one, let's talk about Jonas GRAYMALKIN, a character who first appeared in Young X-Men issue 1 in June of 2008. Jonas is quite old, narratively speaking. He was born in pre-revolutionary America and spent his youth coming to terms with his sexuality, having realized that he was gay. His father caught him with another boy one day in their family's barn, and believing that Jonas was an abomination and the spawn of the devil, because he was super Christian, he beat Jonas to death, or at least he thought Jonas had died. His father buried him alive in the nearby woods, and this is what triggered Jonas's mutant powers, allowing him to survive around 200 years underground, which just so happened to be under the Xavier Institute. Turns out he's actually an ancestor of Charles Xavier's. Now, when a Sentinel attack destroyed the school, he was unearthed. So, what exactly are his powers? It's something called darkness empowerment. It's related to light exposure. The darker it is, the more powerful he becomes. This includes giving him superhuman strength, nigh invulnerability, longevity, or potentially immortality on that front since he survived without food or water for 200 years, and of course, night vision.
Number 3. Bailey Hoskins. Bailey is a mutant I wish we got to see more of. He is the star of the one-off, non-canon comic series X-Men Worst X-Man Ever. I say non-canon lightly because this is Marvel we're talking about, so everything is kind of canon, just living in an alternate reality. Bailey currently resides in a reality which isn't really quite established, temporarily suggested to be the alternate reality of 656, a placeholder for now. Bailey's mutant ability is self-detonation, which he can regrettably only use once, as he has no resurrection or healing powers to protect him. While you might think that makes him the worst X-Man ever, I would argue it is the one he chooses to use that power on and stand up against that is actually the worst in that comic series, the vile fascist mutant leader Riches.
Number 2. Azazel. Azazel is the father of Nightcrawler after having Mystique be the father with Destiny got vetoed. Azazel actually claimed to be one of the oldest mutants, and is part of a species called the Neopham, from whom certain mutants are said to be descended. Despite being mistaken for Satan by humans, he is in fact an incredibly aged mutant who claims to have been banished to the Brimstone Dimension, which he has since made his home. This is also the dimension that Nightcrawler teleports through when he teleports. Fun fact.
Number 1. Honestly, Shatterstar is just boring as a mutant. That's really it. He's pretty much the embodiment of an overpowered action hero, from his Rob Liefeld design being just an overly muscular guy with a sword and a silly eye tattoo. It's really just a mishmash of exactly what stereotypes the 80s and 90s thought made someone a badass. Somehow, I'm not surprised this guy was brutally killed in Deadpool 2, and really, describing yourself as a better Deadpool and looking like that, it's not gonna win anybody over. What is that head crown even holding on to anyway? And those are our top 10 worst new mutants. Anyone you think was worse? I gotta say, rebooting this universe to have way less X-Men was probably not the worst thing, especially with guys like Beak running around. Anyway, have a good one.
Number 10. Nanny. First on our list today is the partner of the Orphan Maker, Nanny, a low-level telepath that paired up with the Orphan Maker as the two thought that the parents of mutant children were just straight up evil and ill-equipped to properly raise and protect their young mutants from danger. She and Orphan Maker traveled the world searching for young mutants to take care of, killing their parents to sever any family connections, and using her minor telepathic powers to control her new charges. Dubbed the Lost Boys and Lost Girls, these mutant orphans acted as her quote-unquote new children. Her first major mission was at the State Home of Foundlings in Omaha, a facility where Mr. Sinister kept many mutant children for observation and experimentation, and she was able to liberate them after escaping the grasp of the X-Men. Fast forward a bit and we see Nanny and the Orphan Maker attack the X-Men in Australia in order to quote-unquote save them. However, this led them to being overpowered and forced to flee to see another day. During the events of M-Day just after Decimation, we see Nanny resurface once more only to be defeated by Wolverine himself. Give her story a read for yourself, starting with her first appearance in 1988's X-Factor, number 30.
Number 9. Triage. Triage made his first appearance in the all-new X-Men series. His powers involve life force control over other beings, and for a while some believed his powers also granted Christopher Muse immortality. However, Christopher appears to have died after being forcibly cured of his mutation, which in itself ended up killing him. With his powers, Triage was able to heal others and could even reanimate corpses, though their state of decay would remain unchanged. And if he had been granted more time, who knows? He may have even been able to completely heal and resurrect people, restoring them to a more lively and maybe less zombie-like appearance. Too bad he died. Although, is he dead? Is he not dead? Was he immortal? I don't know. Stay tuned to find out more. Number 8. ELIXIR. Josh Foley is an Omega level mutant. He found himself at the Xavier Institute after being rejected by his friends and his family because of his mutant status. Sad face. Originally, he was part of the anti-mutant group, the Reavers, but discovered during a fight with some mutant students that he actually was a mutant himself with healing abilities, which he used to heal one of the fellow Reavers who was injured in the fight. He tried to hide his powers as long as he could, but eventually he got found out and outed. His powers allow him to manipulate the biological structure of organic matter within a certain proximity to him. He can use these powers to heal or to harm others, and is also able to sense one's life energy, and even transfer life energy from one being to another. Force heal ability. Most recently we saw him in the House of X as a member of the Five, a group of mutants whose powers when joined together allow them to resurrect other fallen mutants. He made his first appearance in New Mutants Volume 2.
In at number 7, Blindfold. Blindfold is Ruth Aldine, a character who first debuted in Astonishing X-Men Volume 3 Issue 7 in 2005, despite being mentioned several months prior in the same series as Issue 4. Now, she was created by Joss Whedon and John Cassaday, and she's got some wickedly powerful abilities. She's a telepath, is capable of retrocognition, clairvoyance, precognition, reality anchoring, astral projecting, and psychic energy manifestation. Over the years, she's had some other powers that she's lost or regained, including telekinesis, chaos manipulation, and accelerated probability. Now, ever since she was a child, Ruth has worn a blindfold over her eyes in order to cover up her mutation. She was born without eyes, but has powerful psionic abilities. Now, her powers are neutralized when she's in the presence of another precognitive, like Destiny, who explained that when two precogs are in close proximity to each other, it's like they're two magnets pressed together positive pole to positive pole, negatively affecting each other's powers. These days, after Dawn of X, Ruth's predictions about her future proved to be true. She knew that there would be a utopia for most mutants, but because of her precognition abilities and Moira McTaggart's demands that no precogs be allowed on Krakoa, she was not able to join her peers.
Number 6. Nature Girl. Nature Girl was given her name by iBoy. The two mutants also went on a bit of an adventure together while babysitting Jubilee's adopted son, Shogo. And the two were both a part of Jubilee's team of mutants to train at Kitty Pryde's Xavier Institute for Mutant Education and Outreach in Central Park. They are also really cute together, with iBoy being covered in eyes and Lynn with her little antlers being a master of nature. Lynn Lee, aka Nature Girl's powers consist of an ability to bend nature to her will and communicate with it. She is able to soothe beasts, can control the elements, and can even heal nature. Truly the mutant we could all use right now, am I right? Come on, heal this terrible Earth that we have destroyed. Lynn Lee was also a student at the Jean Grey School for Higher Learning.
Number 5. Saul. Saul is a member of a group of immoral mutants called the Externals. He represents patience in their group, for all Externals are connected. He is one of the oldest Externals. Even when you meet him, he is already old. He has been around since the continents shook. For the Externals, immortality takes place after their first death, and at that point, once returned, they no longer age. So comforting to think that he lived to ripe old age, but that's not what happened, as you'll soon find out. While his abilities appear magical, this may be because of his mutation.
Number 4. Okay, Wither wins my award for being probably the dumbest mutant I have ever seen. I mean, it's honestly just infuriating. So after Scarlet Witch changed reality to take away 90% of the mutants' powers, Wither, seeing everyone declaring their powers are gone, immediately grabs Wallflower's arm to show her he can't make it decay, and then makes it decay. Like, first off, he didn't think to maybe try it on a flower or something first just to be sure, I don't know, you don't disintegrate someone's arm. But secondly, Icarus is standing right next to her, with his wings. So maybe, you know, put 2 and 2 together and figure out that maybe, just maybe, this isn't an absolute thing yet. Ugh, moron.
Number 3, the Nasty Boys. Comprised of Mr. Sinister, Ruckus, Multiple Man, Slab, Gorgeous George, Hairbag, and Ramrod, the Nasty Boys were the strike force organized by Mr. Sinister to take down the X-Men. The Nasty Boys made their first appearance all together battling the X-Factor after Slab initially attacked Strong Guy. After losing this battle, Sinister posed as Steven Shafran and unveiled his plan to kill the Scarlet Witch. Shafran, obviously upset, attempted to kill him only to be killed himself. During all that, Ramrod was also deported from the country but did make his way back, illegally. Needless to say, this is a very busy group. The team was later regrouped by Sinister and they hunted Malice, who was trying to kill Polaris, so that they couldn't remerge, and they didn't stop this hunt until Malice was apparently destroyed by Polaris herself and Havoc. A while later, the team decided to reform during the final days of mutant kind after X-Man's return that ended in the death of most of the X-Men. Now, it was revealed to be a bait set up by the Upstarts to lure out the remaining X-Men, which they were not aware of, and they were all promptly killed by the Upstarts. Check out these nasty, nasty boys for yourself, starting with 1992's X-Factor, number 75.
Number 2, Shade. Darnell Wade became inspired by New York superheroes, and he decided to build his drag persona around this inspiration, taking the drag name Shade. Also, can I just say that I love that Shade is wearing like a bunch of pouches like as a sash. It's amazing. Shade longed to star in a drag competition show, but her dreams were dashed when her friend Spillin' Tiana Taylor was chosen over her to compete. To add insult to injury, Tiana also spurned Shade on national television, ending their friendship. Shade returned to her apartment where the power had just been turned off, and it felt like she had, well, hit rock bottom when her mutant powers manifested. Shade's powers allow her to teleport herself and others to the Dark Force dimension. Since her introduction in Iceman Volume 4, she has taken the alias of Darkveil. Number 1, Amy. That's right, her name's just Amy. And we're going to finish it off with a sob story to remind us of all the mutants we have both gained and lost over the years. Though with the 5 existing in House/Powers of X, maybe we'll get all those lost mutants back eventually, at some point, unless things change. We'll see. Amy was a mutant who was trapped in the Red Skull's concentration camp on Genosha. She made her first appearance in Magneto Volume 3, issue number 9. Amy had illusion-based powers that became warped after suffering the horrors of the camp. When Magneto freed her, these powers started wreaking havoc. She ended up creating monsters and nightmares from others' fears and haunted psyches. Amy's powers allow her to create 3D constructs, and when these nightmarish constructs started to kill, it became apparent that either her or those whose nightmares she possessed needed to die in order to put a stop to her malfunctioning powers. Amy, being the angel that she is, decided to sacrifice herself, not finding much reason to live anyways, as tortured as she was. Poor Amy. Oh, she didn't even last 10 issues. I just feel really bad for her. No. Thank you so much for watching, Nerd Squad. I hope you enjoyed this list. If you did, why not smash that subscribe and ring our bell so you can potentially enjoy some future lists as well. Potential. What are some of your favorite newest mutants? What has been your favorite mutant comic series since the early 2000s? What do you love most about stories involving mutants and the X-Men? Let us know in the comments below. And speaking of comments, it's time to turn to some comments from one of our latest videos, Top 10 Heralds of Galactus. Cimmerian comments, "That wink though, Amanda knows what she's doing." Do I? I've been told that I am terrible at winking actually, but thank you. I'm glad that you appreciate my passable winking skills. There we go. Is that good? I feel like I blink when I wink. That's the problem, really. Glitch King says, Dazzler is my favorite Herald. If she ever fully committed to training instead of just using her powers for concert, she would become one of the most powerful mutants when it comes to destructive power. I would definitely agree that Dazzler is super underrated. She has a lot of power and a unique skill set to boot, but I feel like the conflict within her of just being herself versus being a hero as well is always such an interesting part of her character. Still, I hope we get to see more of her being a powerhouse as well, because, you know, we know she can be. And that's all the time we have for comments today. Be sure to comment below for a chance to have your thoughts and feels shouted out in a future list. This has been Top 10 Nerd, and I'm your host Amanda McKnight, reminding you, as always, to stay nerdy, YouTube. Feeling bad about his ability, like it gave him an unfair edge and kind of made... Feeling bad about his ability, like it gave him an unfair edge and meant it was kind of... Feeling bad is about it. Abigail Brand was created by Joss Cassidy and John Cassidy. Not everyone is Joss, Amanda, okay? Despite making her first appearance in Uncanny X-Men, the original X-Men series, IDA didn't.
Marvel's mutants are an ever-growing community, and we love that. There's been some phenomenal recent additions to the roster of mutants that we've seen debut in the Publishing Giants panels. Today we are coming at you with a part 4 of our top 10 newest mutants list. So at this point, the newness factor isn't really all that new, I suppose, but we are still ranking them in chronological order from oldest to newest, with this batch being between the years of 2003 and 2010. So with that in mind, let's get to our list. Starting us off in at number 10, Mercury. Let's begin our list with a mutant who debuted in August of 2003, in New Mutants Volume 2, Issue 2. Mercury, aka Cecily Kincaid, has the ability to mimic mercury, hence her codename. Her body is made up of a non-toxic metal that resembles mercury, and she can reshape it or solidify at will, despite still being relatively inexperienced in shapeshifting. She can cling to solid surfaces thanks to her molecular adhesion powers, and has exhibited super strength at times, although the full extent of that strength is still undetermined. Now, she doesn't require food or water, although she does eat to make herself fit in better with others. She ended up being selected by Emma Frost to be part of her Hellion squad, along with a few other of her fellow teenage pals at the Institute, including our next number,
Number 9, Morph. I really like this mutant because with him they found a way to make shapeshifting abilities unique again, and somehow make them even weirder and cooler at the same time. Morph, aka Benjamin Deeds, is able to shapeshift into those he spends time with, slowly, over time. So the more time he spends with you, the more he starts to resemble you. He really is the embodiment of what it feels like to live in somebody else's shoes. As he fuses with you, he takes on your look, your voice, and also exudes an energy that encourages you to trust him, to feel relaxed and calm in his presence. I just think this is such a cute way to imagine shapeshifting, and a useful way to use it as well, potentially calming your target into submission as opposed to causing them harm. It's kind of like the anti-mystique of shapeshifting, I think.
Number 8, Namor. For a time, Namor was said to be the first mutant. Also, just so you know, instead of yelling the Submariner or something like that, his full name is Namor Mackenzie. That's just much less impressive, isn't it? Namor Mackenzie, King of Atlantis. Namor was born around 1916, and this was basically so we could accommodate for why he was around during the Golden Age and still today. Because Namor used to fight Nazis and the like with Captain America and the first android Human Torch, Jim Hammond. Somewhere, someone's head just exploded because I didn't call him a synthezoid. But if Namor is over 100 years old, then why does he look so young? Well, this is because of his hybrid Atlantean human physiology. That's why. This is also why he was said to be the first mutant, because his abilities appeared in the same realm, but really they were just a result of his hybrid physiology. Still counts because they called him a mutant.
Number 7. He's just gross. GLOB HERMAN's just a nasty concept for a mutant. His entire body is made of bioparaffin, which means living wax. The wax is flammable, which basically means he spends a lot of time lighting himself on fire, and that's kind of it. Yeah, he's got super strength and all that, but like, the main thing is you can see through him to his organs, and his eyeballs just kind of extend out from his skull. Creative? Absolutely. Cool? Not really. He seems more like an experiment gone wrong than someone with a power. That said, he kind of reminds me of a gooey Halloween-style Baymax in the latest volume of New Mutant.
Number 6, Barrage. Another one of the original recruits of the Dark Riders of the Storm on this list today. If you're not familiar with Barrage, he had the ability to transform his forearms into organic weapons capable of collecting ambient energy, and then firing it into powerful explosive blasts. Barrage served as an agent of Apocalypse and seemed to follow him no matter what the task was given, as he was a part of the attack on X-Factor's ship and the attack on the Inhuman city on the moon. Alongside the other members of the Dark Riders, Barrage switched sides and served under Strife after he was able to best Apocalypse, and they defended Strife's moon base from the X-Men and mortally wounded the unfit Apocalypse in combat. After Strife's death, the Riders traveled the world challenging any and all mutants, killing Mesmero and even their own Synapse in the process, as they were too weak to even be considered worthy of living. Barrage was one of the few members of the Riders to survive the massacre by Wolverine because he actually wasn't a part of the team at the time. Honestly, lucky him. Fast forward a bit and the Dark Riders, including Barrage, embarked on a journey to kill mutant healers after a Terrigen mist cloud was spread throughout the world, endangering mutant kind, believing that the event was to be a test of strength so that only the strongest would survive. When they attacked the healer Shen Zorn, they were caught off guard by his display of ultimate power, which unfortunately cost Barrage his life. Check him out starting with 1991's X-Factor, number 65.
Number 5, Rat King. A play on the Pied Piper, this mutant villain has the power of zoopathy, which allows him to control animals animals using music. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Zoopathy, zoopathy, it's kind of a weird word. He is the son of the Morlock Piper, whom he shares abilities with. When it was revealed that he was controlling local animals in Central Park into doing his bidding, Nature Girl and iBoy joined together to put a stop to him, freeing the animals from his control. Thus ended the reign of Rat King. Although, he's still around, just chilling in his flip-flops. Number 4. Genesis. Genesis was created by Phantom X using the World, a research facility created by the Weapon Plus program, which had been shrunken down to portable size. Think Hank Pym's Lil Quantum Lab in the Ant-Man and the Wasp MCU film, but smaller than that. Genesis, aka Evan Sabanur, is the clone of Young Apocalypse. Phantom X created Evan to help overthrow Angel, who had become Apocalypse's Horseman of Death and sought to replace him. Evan was raised to be basically a good version of Apocalypse, what the X-Men villain would be like as a hero, if you will. Evan has already shown that he possesses some of the original Apocalypse's powers and abilities, including super strength and durability, matter manipulation, and energy manipulation. And it is likely that as he grows, he will develop even more of his abilities. Probably. Possibly. We'll see what happens.
Moving on to number 3, Transonic. Transonic, also known as Laurie Tremette, debuted in July of 2010 in Uncanny X-Men issue 526. She is a mutant with supersonic flight, capable of not only propelling her body through the air at transonic speeds, but also can change her physical properties in order to have better maneuverability in the air, which she does at higher altitudes or when traveling at high speeds. She's been able to make herself look like a large flying fish or a missile. When Laurie first appeared in Uncanny X-Men, she was a blue teenager, quite literally, having difficulty coping with her mutation. When the X gene manifested in her, it took no real form, but it caused her skin to change color, for her to lose her hair, and gave her flu-like symptoms. So she tried to commit suicide by jumping off a building, but in doing so, it actually activated her powers. Eventually she joined up with Hope Summers as one of the 5 Lights, becoming a prominent character in the Generation Hope series. Now aside from her powers, she's an incredibly smart and thoughtful mutant, citing logic as the rationale for her actions, and getting annoyed at her teammates when they confuse things like ethics and morals. She's also Canadian, so.
Number 2. Hindsight. While Nathaniel Carver might not appear to have the strongest power just yet, I'm certain, like most underrated powers, that with more control over his abilities, he could prove to be more useful than originally anticipated. Nathaniel, aka Hindsight, has the ability to see one's recent past upon making physical contact with them. He can also use this ability on objects, allowing him to see any psychic imprints left behind on that object, a power that Jean Grey actually also has. But one of my favorite things about Nathaniel was his fear of these powers getting in the way of a relationship that he started developing with fellow student Benji, aka Benjamin Deeds, aka MORPH, who I mentioned earlier. Fortunately, love overcame fear and the two ended up together, and are admittedly adorable together. Yay! Future gay X-Men, bring them on, I'm ready. Give me all the gay X-Men.
Number 1. Amal Farouk, aka the Shadow King. Now this is an interesting one, because some would argue that the Shadow King is an entity, an astral presence, but not all believe that the monstrous shape he occupies inside the astral plane was always his true form. While it is true that Amal Farouk was a host body, he was not the first, and perhaps there was an original. The Shadow King claimed he has existed since humans were able to have nightmares. Still, for years the Shadow King was classed as a mutant, and his nebulous existence would make him one of the oldest if that is the case. Mutants. Mutants everywhere. Mutants since the dawn of time. In no particular order. I'm Sasha, and thanks so much for watching the top 10 oldest mutants here on Top 10 Nerd. Please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and hit that bell notification so that you never miss a vid. And we'll see you again soon. Bye bye.
The New Mutants. Not sure how I feel about them overall. I feel like half the members are kinda cool and the other half are just really annoying. Or boring. I'm conflicted. So, I'm gonna try and get through that here. Here's the top 10 worst New Mutants. Number 10. CYPHER. CYPHER with a Y, not to be confused with Cypher with an I, which if we're reusing names is already a pretty bad sign, has this super amazing mutant power of translation. Basically, the character can read any kind of language semi-telepathically, whether it be written, spoken, or body language. Now, that isn't to say this is without merit, and the powers of CYPHER were eventually expanded upon to include being able to read body language to the point where he could read an opponent's combat language, making him an expert at fighting. And while that part is kinda cool, this was also expanded to him speaking binary. Not to mention how he can now read architectural structure, which is apparently a communicable language now. Overall, this guy's power set just seems to be vaguely defined, and overall, just kinda lame. But hey, a clerical mutant like this would be useful for city plan.
Number 9. Tusk. Not a whole lot is known about the early life of this Inhuman, and honestly not knowing how he turned out to be like this makes him just that little bit more terrifying. Tusk has the ability to grow in power and in size into this monstrous form, as well as the power to produce smaller versions of himself that can act independently thanks to a psychic link. Tusk served Apocalypse as one of the original recruits of the Riders of the Storm, which lasted for quite some time until Strife overpowered Apocalypse and the Riders served under him. Fast forward just a tad and we see the Dark Riders return when a lot of the mutant population began dying thanks to the effects of the Terrigen Mist. They went on a bit of a killing spree, getting rid of any mutant healer, believing that their powers were a violation of the natural order, and the reasoning behind that was that mutants had had their chance at survival and that delaying their extinction was not the way to go about it. This caught the attention of Magneto and his X-Men, and the team set out to take down the Riders, succeeding after Magneto overpowered them and finished them off for good with some good old explosives. Check out Tusk's story starting with 1991's X-Factor number 65.
Number 8. Hijack. David Bond was first introduced in Uncanny X-Men Volume 3. He was revealed to be a technopath with a proficiency for controlling cars with his mind. He could start an engine, unlock and open doors, and make them drive around. A pretty sexy power in my opinion, but then again I have an affinity for cars because I'm a weirdo. After David discovered his powers, he went to parking lots at night to test them out, but ended up being caught by the local police. At the time his girlfriend Karen was with him. Terrified, she actually outed David as a mutant, getting him into quite a bit of trouble. David was then rescued by the X-Men while trying to flee the police. He later took the codename Hijack. Appropriate, I think. His powers have also been shown to be able to manipulate more tech than just vehicles. He can actually use them to defeat Sentinels and even interfere with technological armor. Not a mutant that Iron Man would like to go up against them. Although Iron Man is a bit of a technopath himself now. I wonder who would win in a fight. But I think my money's still on Hijack. His technopath powers seem stronger. Come at me if you think Iron Man would win, but I don't know. Number 7. Abigail Brand. Abigail Brand was created by John Cassidy and Joss Whedon, and made her comic book debut in Astonishing X-Men Volume 3. She is a no-nonsense badass who is half mutant and half alien. One of the first to show us that even those with alien heritage can also be mutant too. Brand is best known in affiliation with SWORD, a division of S.H.I.E.L.D. that seeks to guard the world against and deal with extraterrestrial threats. SWORD stands for Sentient World Observation and Response Department, in case you didn't know. And Brand serves as the commander of the organization. The head of the organization, if you will. Her mutant power is contact pyrokinesis. She can produce blue or red flames on her hands and use those to burn through almost anything or anyone that gets in her way. So watch out for Abigail Brand. She'll mess you up.
And at number 6, Bling. Roxy Washington is Bling, with an exclamation point. A mutant who attended the Xavier Institute and was a part of the X-Men in Training Squad, first appearing in X-Men Volume 2, issue 171 in 2005. She's the daughter of a celebrity couple, 2 hip-hop artists named Daddy Libido and Sexy Mother. And because of this, she had often been targeted by kidnappers or assassins because of her parents' fame. She had no desire to follow in her family's footsteps, and being a mutant who had a diamond form and superhuman durability, and an ability to project diamond shards to boot, she came to the Xavier Institute and was trained under Gambit under his squad. She's also bisexual and had a big ol' crush on Rogue. I mean, who doesn't? Aside from her genius powers, she's got a genius level intellect, she's a master engineer, and at one point she was recruited for Angel's board at Worthington Industries. She's also not overly caught up in the mutant-human dynamic, she kind of prefers to just not deal with it. To each their own.
Number 5. Matthew Malloy. One of the most powerful mutants who kinda no longer exists. But he could still exist, I guess, if writers decided to bring him back. He was basically written out of existence when Tempest went back in time and prevented his parents from ever meeting, meaning he was never conceived and therefore did not exist in present day. This had to happen because Malloy proved too strong and unstable, with his powers being strongly linked to his emotions. He emitted a blast of energy that ended up destroying most of Atlanta. He also has strong reality warping powers, telekinesis, and telepathy. He could also even manipulate matter. It was even suggested that he was beyond Omega level in the comics, so although writers have written him out, I wouldn't be surprised at his power level if he didn't find a way to return to the comics. He didn't even make it to 10 issues in Uncanny X-Men Volume 3. Still, he demonstrated such power that I feel he's really worth mentioning. You know, we might see him again someday. Who knows?
And at number 4, Apocalypse. En-Sabanur, another mutant who at times said claims the oldest mutant title. Apocalypse has existed since ancient Egyptian times. He's over 5,000 years old. His mutations have only been enhanced by gifts given to him by one of the Celestials. At this point, his longevity is thought to be so great compared to many creatures, he is essentially immortal. So fun fact, Apocalypse actually killed our last number, and was granted access to Celestial tech through the ship he was on, which happened to house Eson, a Celestial, who offered Apocalypse tech if he agreed to use it to change the world, a proposition he of course accepted. Apocalypse is also a fixture in the future, where he occupies the position as a dystopian overlord.
Number 3. Okay, so a disclaimer. Admittedly, these two don't really count as New Mutants, but given they're featured prominently in the reboot, more so than some of the actual confirmed New Mutants cast, I'm gonna run with it for now. Since the way things are unfolding, I get the feeling they're gonna be pretty central to this story arc. And because they're twins, this is gonna count as 2.
Number 2. FOREARM. Michael McCain, aka FOREARM, was one of the founding members of the Mutant Liberation Front, a team of disillusioned and rebellious mutant youth. Now Michael is called FOREARM for pretty obvious reasons, but I will explain his powers a bit for you anyways. He has 4 arms, hence, you know, the name. And thanks to this mutation, he also possesses superhuman strength, stamina, and durability. Now one of their first missions under the leadership of Strife was to liberate the incarcerated New Mutants members Rusty and Skids, and the team broke them out of prison and the pair joined the MLF out of just straight up confusion. Skip ahead a bit and the MLF travels to Muir Island, where they meant to steal the legacy virus data, but while they were there, they learned about the Xavier protocols and decided to steal them instead. The team was confronted by Excalibur though, and they were quickly teleported away empty-handed. After a second attempt to steal the legacy virus, FOREARM left the team as he felt betrayed by Moonstar, who revealed herself to be an undercover SHIELD agent. He later resurfaced as a part of a fighting championship in Madripoor called Bloodsport, where superpowered opponents fought to the death. However, in an unfortunate turn of events, FOREARM was killed during a fight with former Serpent Society member Anaconda, who just broke his neck. Oddly enough though, he was somehow able to recover from death and made an appearance as a member of the MLF once more not too long after. Give a story read starting with 1990's New Mutants number 86.
Number 1. Gwenpool. Gwenpool has recently been retconned as a mutant. Due to her self-awareness of the world around her, she was able to alter her origins. In Gwenpool Strikes Back Volume 5, she uses her reality-altering powers to rewrite her own story and make herself a mutant, which Kamala Khan claimed had been the truth all along, and she had just blocked it out as a coping mechanism, making up the world of comics, which in truth was Gwen's real world. This allowed Gwenpool to move through a portal to Krakoa. Once there, she was welcomed by fellow mutants, including her ex, Quentin Quire. She even gave herself a House of X / Powers of X style character breakdown in one of the final pages of this issue. I guess we'll see if this ends up sticking, but for now at least, it seems Gwenpool has joined the mutant ranks. And what a time to be a mutant! If there was ever a time I would want to jump into that world, it would be now. Or the 90s, when of course I could have all the pouches. Give me all the pouches, that's all I want in my costume. Thank you so much for watching, Nerd Squad. I hope you enjoyed this list. I definitely enjoyed writing it. I love mutants! Who are some of your favorite mutants right now in the comics? How are you enjoying all the new stuff that is happening in the world of mutants on Krakoa? And what new mutant powers would you like to see show up in the comics? Let us know in the comments below. And what was the secret behind my ordering system? Did you guess it? Like my previous top 10 newest mutants, which actually some of you did guess right in the comments, it was based on mutant reveal dates, from oldest to more recent. Till next time, this has been Top 10 Nerd, and I'm your host Amanda McKnight, reminding you to stay nerdy, YouTube. Nerd Squad. I hope you have been enjoying these newest mutants lists, because we have another one coming your way. This time I've opened it up to include some mutants from the early 2000s as well as the 2010s. 2010s. That sounds so weird to say. Today we'll be taking a look at a variety of mutants. Some are super powerful, some are super important in regards to story, some are super cute, and others are just super tragic. But basically they're all super, and all the things that you could possibly love about mutants. A little bit of everything for you today as we count down the top 10 newest mutants, part 3. That's right, so if you enjoyed this list, be sure to go back and check out our part 1 and 2 if you haven't already. I love mutants and I love talking about them, and if you love mutants as well, show some love by giving this video a thumbs up. Alright, let's do some talking and get counting. Number 10. Kid Omega. Kid Omega, aka Quentin Quire, has also been described as an Omega level telepath and telekinetic before. He joined up with the Xavier Institute later in the new X-Men series in issue 134. Quickly, Quentin became a prized student of Xavier's, who saw within him a great potential, as brilliant and as talented as he was. However, over time and with the revelation that he had been adopted, he became more rebellious and egotistical. He questioned Professor Professor X and the Professor's dream for the world, for humans and mutant kind to coexist in harmony. He began using the mutant drug Kick and created a gang called the Omega Gang, which set out attacking humans. Eventually he was beaten down by the Stepford Cuckoos and he reformed, though he would continue to be known for having a bit of an attitude and a rebellious streak. But hey, isn't that why we love him? Or is that why we hate him? I don't know. You tell me. You be the judge. Quentin Quire, love or hate?
In at 9, Rockslide. Rockslide aka Santo Vaccaro first debuted in 2003's New Mutants Volume 2, Issue 3, in September of that year. He's a mutant with the ability to transform into a golem form, which he does by assimilating surrounding rock and earth into a Gestalt shell, which he can also detonate at will to cause an explosion. And this form gives him superhuman strength, durability, and endurance. After traveling from his home of Boston to live at the Xavier Institute, he began to befriend the soon-to-be Hellions, with Emma Frost selecting him to be a part of the Hellion squad. He's also got quite the fun personality. Santo dreams of being a superhuman wrestling star. Initially he was portrayed as a bit of a bully, but now the more that we get to know his character, the more that he's grown, becoming more good-natured and fiercely protective of his friends. He also loves murder mystery television and Dance Dance Revolution, so he's pretty relatable. It's also worth noting that he was one of the students who managed to retain his powers after M-Day.
Number 8. Gold Balls. Gold Balls recently became a very important mutant in the comics. He is part of a group known simply as the Five on Krakoa. Together he and Proteus, ELIXIR, Hope Summers, and Eva Bell can help to bring forth new life, or well, sort of old life really. They are able to resurrect any mutants who have been lost by cloning them and, with the help of X, restoring their previous memories so that in essence they kind of are the lost mutant returned. Gold Ball's power is similar to Minoru Mineta of My Hero Academia. Instead, however, Fabio Medina produces gold balls, hence his name. Originally these were simply seen as balls of various sizes which could be launched in a sort of an attack mode. Later it was discovered that they were actually infertile eggs, and with the help of the Five would become the home of unborn resurrected mutants who had fallen. Gold Balls made his first appearance in Uncanny X-Men Volume 3, Issue number 1.
Number 7. Exodus. Bennett du Paris. Bennett was born during the 12th century, and once his powers manifested, he became one of the most powerful psionic mutants out there. And he also just kinda stopped aging. And on top of that, he also has an impressive healing factor that can regenerate organs, missing limbs, and what have you. He can also regenerate tissue and brain cells, also in other people. When it comes to himself, this probably explains his longevity. A much better explanation than he just kinda willed himself to stop aging. He's approaching over 1,000 years old if you follow the 12th century birth date.
Number 6. X-CEPTIONAL. Look, this isn't about whether I like the story. I actually do. And he was only on the New Mutants very briefly. I'm just saying, matter-of-factly, X-CEPTIONAL, aka Bailey Hoskins, is exactly what he was designed to be. A really crappy mutant. And overall, just a really boring, annoying human being. And his power? He can explode himself. But if he explodes, he dies. Boom, that's it, he's dead. No more Bailey. And really, as far as mutant powers go, that's definitely sitting on the worst end of it. The most interesting thing about this character is just how amazingly bad his life is. But let me again reiterate, he's one of the worst. But in the best way possible, because it's intentional. The comic is called Worst X-Men Ever. It's written by Max Bemis of Say Anything, which anyone who's ever listened to him should know. He's fantastic about writing about rather miserable people. So it's completely enjoyable as a read. Just don't expect it to change your perspective on Bailey being a good mutant. He's not.
Number 5. Whiteout. Now I'm really starting to sense a pattern here because extremely little is known about Whiteout and her past. A lot of it is just, assuming and speculation. We do know what her power is though. Whiteout possesses the superhuman ability to project a flash of blinding white light from her body. This light renders her opponents blind for approximately 1 minute, and for some unknown reason her power only affects victims that she chooses, and not everyone within the range, meaning it can be used very tactically. So like I said before, a lot of her past life is speculated, but it's assumed that she has resided in the Savage Land for some time, and it was there that she was recruited by the mutant Zaladane to join her forces of the Savage Land mutants. In her only known mission for Zaladane, Whiteout and the other Savage Land mutants attacked the X-Men in Chile while they were looking for Polaris. The X-Men defeated the Savage Land mutates pretty easily in this battle, and Whiteout presumably just fled. Check out more of her for yourself, starting with her first appearance in 1989's Uncanny X-Men number 249.
Number 4. Trinary. Trinary is another technopath. Her abilities allow her to control various pieces of tech within her line of sight. Similar to Hijack, this also includes, but is not limited to, Sentinels. In fact, born and raised in India, after discovering her mutant abilities, she used them to steal money from the top 5 highest earning CEOs' accounts. She then transferred and divided that money up between all the working women of India. Is it weird that I kind of love that? Because I kind of love that. Very Robin Hood. This later led to her imprisonment, which she managed to escape. She also appeared in House of X, working alongside the team of Technopaths and Moira X, who worked on Project Sleeping Giant. Sleeping Giant was created to help monitor for the development of Nimrod tech, which would threaten mutant kinds and eventually humanity's own existence. Technopaths seem to be becoming more common in the mutant world, which I kinda love. It's like as our tech develops and grows, so too do those with powers surrounding it, who seem to be popping up more and more often. Trinary made her comic book debut in the X-Men Red series. Number 3. Sprite. Not to be confused with the Eternal Sprite, this sprite is also known as Jiojing. In fact, she got her codename from Wolverine, who gave it to her in reference to not the Eternal Sprite, but to Kitty Pryde, who actually once went by the same codename. Upon having her mutant abilities manifest, Jia became determined to become the greatest X-Men ever, to honor her family and her country, China. Jia's mutant abilities are tied to her appearance. She has wings and resembles a fairy. Her skin is also durable and rock-like, and her body is somewhat morphable.
And at number 2, Brandon Sharp. Brandon Sharp, also known as Stryker, first hit the scene in August of 2010 in Avengers Academy issue 1. He has the power of electrokinesis, capable of generating huge amounts of electricity and then manipulating it. This includes creating lightning blasts from his hands and eyes, electromagnetic shields to use for defense, and he can propel himself into the air and fly via electrokinetic flight, up to 40 miles per hour. Unfortunately, he is a bit of a twat. He's a self-centered and egotistical character who's focused on his own gain rather than helping others. Brandon had a bit of a rough upbringing though. His father was an adulterous politician and his mother was fame-hungry, who made him become a child actor. Brandon's manager, Rick, tried to take advantage of the young boy, and that's where Brandon's powers first manifested, frying the limo that they were in and severely injuring Rick.
Number 1. Moira McTaggart. One amazing revelation we got from the House of X Powers of X series was the truth behind Moira McTaggart. Moira has always been painted as an ally to the X-Men, but in House of X we found out what really drew her to their cause. Although Moira has been a long-standing character in the comics, first appearing in 1975, it wasn't until recently that we discovered she was a mutant. Dun dun dun! It turns out that her power is to live her life again, allowing her to see the different outcomes of different futures and allowing her to effectively alter her own fate as well as the world's with her life choices. Her resurrection power is an odd one, and Destiny confessed to Moira that she only saw her living a maximum of 11 lives, if she played her cards right. Still, when used correctly, it would appear to be a powerful mutant ability, as you see in House of X if you read it. If you haven't read it, what are you doing? Get out of here. Go read it. Thank you so much for watching, Nerd Squad. I hope you enjoyed this list. Who are some of your favorite New Mutants? Who are some New Mutants that have passed away or been lost to us that you hope come back? And of course, what was my ranking system for this list? Let me know your thoughts and guesses in the comments below. And speaking of comments, it's time to turn to some comments from one of our latest videos, Top 10 Superpowers You Never Knew Jessica Drew Had. Adam Chappa comments, I think I could see Eliza Dushku playing Jessica Drew. Oh my gosh, I really love that casting. Eliza is such a strong badass and she's sassy and funny just like Jessica. Yes, please. I also feel like Jessica needs her own series, right? I would totally watch a Spider-Woman series. Ray Von Jones says, Amanda trying to look like a younger version of Madam Web from Spider-Man the Animated Series? If so, good job, Amanda. Well, I wasn't intentionally, but maybe subconsciously. I can definitely see how you would think that. Weird, unintentional matching to topics. And that's all the time we have for comments today. Be sure to comment below for a chance to have your thoughts and feels shouted out in a future list. And if you support mutant rights, be sure to give this video a like to show that support. This has been Top 10 Nerd and I'm your host Amanda McKnight. You stay nerdy, YouTube. As he fuses with you and takes on your look, he takes on your look, your sounds, and also your sounds. Just say your voice. Together he Nature Girl was given her name by iBoy. The two mutants went. Sorry. I'm sorry.
Greetings, Mystery List aficionados, and welcome back to Top 10 Nerd. Today we're taking a look at some of the oldest mutants, but not in terms of publication date, but in terms of actual age. So old mutants. And we want to get real old, not just like Xavier and Magneto. So today we've got a range. I'm Sasha, and these are the top 10 oldest mutants. Let's get started. Number 10, Wolverine. Wolverine is older than people think. We're getting into vampire territory. His healing factor guarantees that he ages at an extremely slow rate, but conveniently seems to have aged to adulthood at a pretty fast clip, even if mutant powers tend to activate at puberty. James Howlett is said to have been born in 1832, so he would be 188 at the time of this recording. That is if his birth date is accurate, which is probably not, because Wolverine's history changes all the time. So Wolverine has been around for quite some time, and he's going to be around for much longer, barring some kind of disaster. Few people think about how old Wolverine is though. Honestly, that scene in X-Men Apocalypse that people found so creepy when he meets like a teen Jean, not that far off. Still kinda squicky. Don't think about it. Live by vampire rules.
Number 9, Wolfsbane. My main issue with Wolfsbane is she's just not a very interesting mutant. She's basically a glorified werewolf, which in a universe as creative as X-Men, just seems like someone wasn't trying that hard. As if that wasn't bad enough, in her lupine form, she actually gets less intelligent, so she struggles to comprehend more complex human concepts. So while she isn't incapable of understanding, her mutant ability just seems to create greater limits to her in spite of the benefits. She does get stronger, and her senses do significantly improve, as well as give her the ability to see heat sources, but ultimately, in a universe with cosmic destroyers, telepaths, and even just stronger animal-based mutants, Wolfsbane just doesn't end up standing out much.
Number 8, Bulwark. Oswald Boglin was another X-Men villain that we don't know a whole lot about, especially when it comes to their backstory, but I mean, hey, that's not the worst thing. It lets us speculate, and I for one love that. Bulwark had the ability to expand his muscle mass to unknown proportions, increasing his strength, durability, and resistance. He also wore these red leather bands all across his face and body, and it's assumed that this was done as a means of self-restraint to gauge the safe limit of his powers, as they would start to get a little bit tighter the bigger that he got. He was recruited by Emplit to join their team and torment Generation X, and that's honestly exactly what they did. The Hellions were successful in capturing the young mutants, but M had telepathically called for help, and it was answered by X-Men Bishop. M then took out all her frustrations on Bulwark, punching him through the school's biosphere, and then flying right after him. As he was about to attack M back, his muscles started to wither away, and knowing that he was defeated, he fled so that he could fight another day. Like many villains, Bulwark did not get a happy ending, as he was eventually captured by the revamped Weapon X program and was unfortunately killed. Give his story reads starting with 1996's Generation X, number 12.
Number 7, Forget-Me-Not. Propositional existentialism incarnate. To be or not to be? That is the question. With Forget-Me-Not, you can actually never be quite sure. Although, you'd probably be more inclined to think that he didn't exist. Not to be in this case. Or scratch that. To not even know who I was talking about when I asked your opinion on if he existed or not. Forget-Me-Not's mutant powers are that he is imperceptible, meaning that no one even knows he's there or can sense him. This translates to technology, and this also goes beyond just the physical perception as well. Even telepaths struggle to take note of him. There are some weird exceptions to his power though, like Phantom X claiming that he could always detect Forget-Me-Not for some reason, and Psylocke has been able to find ways to locate him within others' memories through absences and holes that he leaves behind. But even Xavier himself had to set a once-an-hour reminder in his mind in order to remember Forget-Me-Not, and he was one of the most skilled at remembering him, so apparently, other than Phantom X though, who could just remember him because his senses are real good. I don't believe it. I think Phantom X is fibbing. He's just trying to sound cool. It's like, I always knew he was here. I can see him right now. It's fine. He's overweight. Rude. Number 6, Oya. Despite making her first appearance in Uncanny X-Men, the original X-Men series, Idie still didn't end up joining the group until 2010. Yeah, that original series went on for a long time. Idie made her first appearance in issue 528. Idie's powers involve thermal manipulation. She can convert thermal energy into extreme hot or extreme cold, but she does need thermal energy in order to be able to do this. She can't just like create flames or ice on her own. Idie was discovered by the X-Men through Cerebra. When her powers activated, she accidentally killed her family by burning down her village in Oyo State, Nigeria. The military showed up seeking to stop and destroy her, but Hope and Storm rescued her. Yay!
And at number 5, Trance. Next up we have another mutant who debuted in 2005, Trans. Trans first hit the scene in New X-Men Academy X issue 12. Trans, whose name is Hope Abbott, is a mutant with a particularly interesting power. She has an energetic astral projective form in which she projects her astral self and can travel over far distances in this form, as well as avoid physical injury and can produce a disruptive energy surge. The first time her powers manifested in her hometown of Bloomfield Hills, Michigan, it looked as if a ghost had come out of her body and it actually gave her father a heart attack. She was then sent by her parents to the Xavier Institute in hopes of her being cured of this mutation. Culturally sophisticated and voted the best dressed by her classmates, Hope never really made the cut when it came to the formation of a new X-Men team, but she stayed at the Institute to train further. She has a decent amount of untapped power that she's yet to learn to control, like creating arcing energy surges that can stun foes and bend metal or concrete.
Number 4. Sapna. While Sapna may have only existed in corporal form for only a short time in the comics, it's possible she could actually live on forever in Magic's Soul Sword. Sapna was a young mutant girl who appeared to have magical powers at first. This intrigued Magic, who wanted to know the extent of the young mutant's powers, and so took her to see Doctor Strange. It turned out that she actually had language-based powers, but because her powers manifested while she was in limbo, this caused her to absorb all of the magical and demonic knowledge of that realm, meaning that she could control demons and open gateways to other realms and dimensions. Magic was attempting to train her when Sapna had visions of doing harm to Magic, and that made her run away. The being that offered her help only wanted to use her, and Magic was forced to kill Sapna with her soul sword. However, this also preserved Sapna's soul within it, allowing her to live on in spirit, sort of. So she's like dead, but she's in her soul sword, so, you know. Lives on in a sword. Sounds boring.
Number 3. Selene Gallio. Selene was born 17,000 years ago in Central Europe, in what is said to be after the ocean swallowed Atlantis. She was known as a demoness, later as a sorceress, but she was actually a mutant. She is a psychic vampire. She can psionically drain people of their life force and add that energy to her own, hence increasing her lifespan. Now, Selene uses a lot of energy to expend her other powers, such as her telekinesis, telepathy, and pyrokinesis, just to name a few. She will age, but she can always just absorb more energy to rejuvenate herself.
So this is also number 2. The creepy twins trope is kind of done to death. Making them morally ambiguous? It's been done. And I will be the first to say, I do actually enjoy the stories written around these characters, but Maxime and Manon kind of jump around for being ignorant children trying to help out and being manipulative and honestly kind of sadistic. Having most recently changed the memories of a man holding them hostage to have him murder his allies. Their hearts are in the right place, somehow. At least that's what everyone seems to believe. But they seem frustrated at the prospect of not having people murder each other. Granted, they are abused children, and surely they have a lot going in their heads with what happened with Ahab, but I guess we'll see where they go with this storyline since it's currently ongoing in the latest volume of New Mutants, but right now, I'm not a big fan.
And number 1, Executioner. Now with a name like Executioner, you can probably guess what this guy is all about. Carl Denty was a field agent for the FBI whose partner Fred Duncan was a member of Charles Xavier's Underground, who would cache the technological equipment that the X-Men confiscated from alien races. After his partner's death, Carl inherited all of the equipment and decided that mutants had caused way too much damage in the world, so he donned a lot of the equipment and started calling himself the Executioner, beginning his quest to punish mutants who had not been legally convicted of their crimes. Starting off with killing the mutant tower, Denty quickly teleported away once the X-Men arrived on the scene to stop him, but he was smart and decided to teleport to the X-Mansion to kill the comatose Emma Frost. However, he wasn't smart enough because he was still stopped by Cyclops and Cable. Now none of that deterred him though, because he still continues his mission of punishing mutants. However, for a while he actually did some good as he teamed up with the Punisher in Washington DC to protect the pro-mutant activist Reverend James Conover from the Mutant Liberation Front. This act landed him the position of potential recruit for the initiative. However, who knows if he was ever actually on that team, because that was one of the last times we saw him. Check out his story for yourself, starting with 1993's Uncanny X-Men Annual, number 1993.